Chris, good to see you. We have such an important video today for anybody who's been laid off recently. We have 4 action steps that they should consider today. Of course, layoffs around the US are increasing, a sign that the labor market is softening as the Fed works to quash inflation. What started in the tech sector has now expanded to include several major US companies, of course, in the New Jersey area as well. This includes Bristol Myers Squibb, other pharma companies, and Amazon. Of course, Chris, being laid off is terrible. And you have some really powerful memories from when your dad was laid off.
Yeah, Aaron, great to see you and thank you for having me again. This area, it's important that people understand that although maybe life has happened to them, that they will come out of this and be better off. I watched my dad, who was a very bright man, master's in chemistry, had worked for Coca-Cola, changed to another corporation, and within a short period of time, that corporation laid him off. And
Mhm.
in doing so, I watched him go into depression. And ultimately, I do believe that's what caused part of an early death. And, so when I speak with clients, in 30 years, I've counseled quite a few people that have been laid off, job changes, whether it's by choice or by design or things, a higher power. That being said, I think there's some prudent steps that should be reviewed, taken through, and just words of encouragement. You will get through this.
Yeah, it's important to hear that. But now let's talk through those action steps. And the first one, pretty straightforward, file for unemployment.
Absolutely. This is one of the first things that, quite often people are saying, well, I'm getting a severance, I'm not getting a severance. But think about, if we're going to have an interruption of cash flow, we need to reinstitute that as quickly as possible. And the system, I know in New Jersey, is a little complex, and they have hurdles that you have to jump through to be able to first of all, get through and approved, and then secondarily to keep and maintain an income stream on unemployment. So, we have to check our egos. It's money that we paid into, and we're entitled to it should life happen. So make sure you're taking and applying for those benefits.
Yeah, it's yours. You've certainly earned it. All right, the next one is also pretty straightforward. Update your resume.
Yeah, and this is one of the ones where I see quite often people, after they've secured their current job, and I've seen people at jobs 10, 20, 30 years, and they haven't really touched their resume. And then, corporations do what corporations do, and they make decisions. And
Mhm.
sometimes those decisions are not favorable for the employee. And so, what do you do if you need to go looking for a job? So, Aaron, the question I always ask people, when is the time to look for a job?
When you have a job.
Absolutely, right?
Mhm.
The time to start looking is while you're currently working. That way, the pressure is off. You
Mhm.
need to do so anonymously. You need to do so, discreetly. But it's okay to look and see what the options are.
Mhm. Right, that is really important. All right, next we want to talk through severance, your final paycheck, and unpaid PTO. Of course, you bring up that unpaid PTO to make sure that you have an accurate count of how many days you have left so that it is added in your final paycheck. But also significant, Chris, you learned something new about state laws regarding severance.
Yeah, in New Jersey, Governor Murphy this year proposed, and it was passed, that it's now mandated to corporations with over 100 employees that severance packages for every year of service, you're entitled to 1 year of severance pay. I'm sorry, one week of severance pay. So that's New Jersey and the government making an effort to take from the corporate world, sort of make sure that there's a little bit of a safety net. So make sure that that's in your arena, at least conversations. And then one last thing, Aaron, I want to mention is I recently had a conversation with somebody that was, high income earner, and they were laid off. There was a M&A happen, merger and acquisition. They felt the position was no longer necessary. And when the severance was offered, he and I talked, and he felt that he was a little shy, a little short. So he went back and was able to negotiate that severance package. So just because that's what they're offering doesn't mean there's not room for some type of negotiation. So,
Mhm.
again, we want to make sure that we're bringing in all possible, income while we go through this transition period. And I firmly believe it's just a transition period.
And then the last consideration, which we're not going to go too in depth on this one about reviewing your 401k, because Chris, there are many options here, but what do we need to keep in mind?
So, 401ks, it can be a complex area. And again, it's so specific to the individual that it does warrant its own discussion. With that said, though, if you're going to be laid off and you've spent years accumulating money into something that we all know intuitively, this is our retirement account. The number one advice I can give to somebody is we have to do everything possible not to touch that. If we touch it, the IRS has already built-in mechanism that causes it to be not financially sound. In other words, it will be painful. The penalties can be, not only ordinary income tax, but a 10% penalty on top of that to access funds just because an emergency arose.
Right. Such an important consideration. We'll do a separate video on the options and pros and cons. But I just, want to underscore, Chris, I understand that you are very empathetic to what's happening here with a lot of these people. And it is so important to surround yourself with friends and supporters. And one of those people really should be a financial advisor. Why is that?
So, as I mentioned earlier, when this happened firsthand to me and my family, I was pretty young and I really didn't understand the impact that being laid off would happen, but to watch my dad deteriorate, and because he quite often associated his self-being, his self-worth. I think quite often people associate it for their industry of what they work in. This is a sense of self. This is who they are. So, if that happens, right, what I think the benefit that a seasoned financial advisor can bring to the table is helping you to stay focused on you. Right? Work on the things that are going to be important to you, your family, your household. And then as financial questions come up, we're not making knee-jerk reactions like the 401k, or maybe, now you have to acquire health benefits or benefit packages, severance packages, all of these things. Now, maybe you're saying, hey, I was going to buy a car, or I just bought a new car. Do I keep it? Do I give it back? These types of things should not be done, or in my opinion, really without some guidance, with an even keel. We don't want to be emotionally driven. As stressful as this is, again, I will reinstate or reiterate, it's going to be okay. You will get through this, right? There are options out there. Be patient, be diligent, and talk to somebody that you know and trust that can give you sage advice, not knee-jerk reaction.
Right. So important. Well, Chris, as people, are going through these layoffs, or if they feel like their job may be on the line, what's the best way to reach you with questions?
So the first and foremost is our website is professionalplanningservices.com. You can always reach out and schedule a time to contact me, my staff, or call our office, right? Pick up the phone. We still answer the phone. You're not going to get a voicemail unless none of us are available. And that's 732-302-1810. We're here to help. We're here to guide. There are things that can be done. And sometimes when life happens and kicks you when you're down, having somebody that says, hey, listen, I got your back. We can help guide you to make good decisions.
So important. Well said. Chris, thank you very much.
Aaron, thank you. Have a great day.